In my textbook, I just finished the chapter on tapers, and they're talking about either offsetting the tailstock and going between centers, or using a compound to cut. Our lathes also could come with attachments to do tapers as well. I know for the lathe I have, that attachment was a very expensive option, and it's something I didn't want to go with. Anyways, I bought this. Um, it looks like they cut it in motor oil, and they must have got paid by the piece produced, because they just threw whatever they had in here. Like that lead screw in there is just horrible. It's just completely bent, and it didn't even work before ripping this thing apart. And I was figuring, I'd have to tear this thing apart and make a new lead screw for it. And surprisingly, when I did get it apart, I just gave it a little tap, and it came back to pretty dang close to true. So I didn't even bother making the new lead screw for this. Now the gib, it looks like they did it with a coarse grinded disc. It was just horrible. And when they put this thing together, they had it in backwards. And yeah, no wonder this thing didn't work. Anyways, when it all came apart, I did a little bit of honing on that gib, but not a heck of a lot. Um, when when we get to the actual trying this thing out towards the end, I do have some more thoughts on this. It did come with a dead center and a live center, but the one thing about this thing, like when you use it on the lathe, you absolutely have to put it in upside down, so all the gauge marks are upside down, because that handle will not let you get your cutter anywhere close to the end of your piece of material. Like it protrudes so much out of there that it's just ridiculous. Even when the thing is turned upside down, the tool holder had to be readjusted just to be able to test this thing out and see if I could cut a little bit of a taper with it. Nonetheless, it wasn't very much to tear this thing apart. I think maybe 5 minutes and the whole thing was ripped apart, and could see just how great they put this thing together. Like I say, they must get paid piecework, because anyone that would throw that thing in there and call it good, that quality control is just fantastic there. And it wasn't cheap. It was about $130 Canadian, and like even the case was broken, and the felt is, or not the felt, but the rubber inside the case didn't match up at all either. So this thing was just a total piece of junk. Nonetheless, I was determined to get it to work, to see if it actually worked. Because if it worked, I might make a better one, but we'll get to that later on. Yeah, getting old, need the glasses, and I should have them on in the shop, even if I'm just sitting at the bench. So after a while, here's just a matter of determining how much work I'm actually going to put into this thing. If I was thinking of making a new lead screw, and started getting all the measurements on it, and no sooner did I get all the measurements on it, I put that lead screw on the bench and just gave it a little tap with a ball peen hammer, and rolled it as I tapped it, and it came back to pretty close to true. Um, so yeah, was happy with that. I did go through and you know clean up all the threads on this too, because they're just disastrous as well. And wanted to make this thing at least give it the benefit of every doubt to see if it would work. But this is after I tapped on that lead screw, and it seems to be pretty fine, or pretty good. So at this point now, it's just a matter of getting this thing together. One thing I also wanted to do is just totally tear this thing down, and I had some reservations on whether or not it was actually a Morse Taper 3 on the back side of that. So I did want to do a little test on that at all, like nothing too fancy, but when I put it into my lathe, for some reason it just didn't seem to want to sitting there like the rest of them would. So got it all torn down, and he first thing I got to do is clean all the motor oil or whatever kind of oil they used on this thing. It was just horrendous. It was black tar sort of that was in there. So matter of, getting some isopropyl in there, just getting a brush in there, getting it cleaned off, getting it wiped down, getting some new oil in there. And also I ran the base there on a stone to clean it up a bit as well. And the same holds true with the other side. Tried to clean it up a little bit as well. Like this thing was definitely put together very shoddily, which is a disappointment. I think it'd be an interesting little toy. I don't actually trust this myself for being any sorts of accurate. In fact, when I do try it out a little bit, the rigidity is just not there. The amount the cutter has to stick out, and the offset and everything from that piece there is just beyond what's acceptable. For future, I'm just going to move my tailstock. I do have a nice cylinder that's marked that I use to realign the tailstock, so that's not really a problem whatsoever. I just figured with this thing, try it out, see if it works. If it works, then I wouldn't have to move the tailstock whatsoever. So, after getting it all cleaned out, is just get a little bit of oil on most of it, get a little bit of grease on that lead screw, and get it back together and see it works. And when I was cleaning this, it is surprised there is actually a brass nut in there, but it just went flying. So I had to spend a little time finding that. So now it's time to get the Morse taper 3 off this thing and check it out to see how it compares. So basically what I'm just going to do with this thing is compare it to another Morse taper 3 that I have and see if they come out. So I've already set everything up. So it's going to, I think it was like 5 or 6 or something like that. I had one on the top there, and I'm just going across on both the back and the front to hit the same numbers. And thus, the angle on there is supposed to zero it out on both. And I'd say that's, pretty close right there as to actually being a Morse taper 3. For what this thing's worth, it's close enough. I'm not going to make another one, just if this thing's out a little bit. And I'm sure there's better ways to measure this. But to me, this is just come to mind, zero everything out and compare it to something else. So kind of happy with that. Going to start putting this thing back together and give it a try. And yeah, that's the point where, oh, no, there it is. Thought that was the point where I actually could not find that little brass nut. But just a matter of getting this thing in. And when I actually put the pieces together, it was kind of weird because, everything got sanded down and that. And everything was actually tighter going back together than it was when I took it apart. So I had to loosen off those screws on the side to actually make some room. Maybe it's because I actually put grease and oil on everything, and that made it a little bit bigger. Goes to tell you, didn't even bother greasing it. Oh, I guess another thing is they did, have this thing put together wrong. So when the pieces went together in the right position, I think that might have a lot to do why it was also tighter than it was when it came off. So time to get that lead screw all set up. And after I got this together, I just glued that case together as well. Figured might as well make it look a little prettier. But it definitely sure didn't last in the shipping process. to get to myself. Yeah, like like having that thing slide off is really going to hurt this thing. I think you could throw it at a wall and not hurt it out after the condition that it came in. But you can see how nicely that lead screw is actually going in there now, just with tapping it a little bit to straighten it out. Like when I was actually taking that thing out, it was a fight to get that thing out. And once that's in, it's just a matter of getting it all tightened down. And I'm leaving a live center in it. And to give it the best possible opportunity to work, I will be putting a piece of material in between centers to see if I can't get this thing to actually cut a taper later on. So just to change topic here for a bit, that milling machine I had did sell. I think it went to a good home. The person who bought it actually sent me some pictures after they had got it all cleaned up, and they did a really good job on the wire terminations and that. It looked way better than what I had on there, and it looked good, and he seemed pretty happy with it. So I bought a 935, and it arrived in Canada a week ago, and it was supposed to be actually delivered to me today. However, it didn't show up. So I'm assuming the next business day here, I'm going to have a phone call saying, hey, make sure you're around to pick this thing up. I really look forward to getting it. That one I had, it was a good little milling machine, but it was a hobby machine. Like there's just no way I could do in there what I wanted to do or needed to do on it. Besides, with the 935, it is very similar to the machines I'll be using in school. So I'll have more experience going in on those machines than if you just use the hobby machine. You'll have to adjust to a Bridgeport style machine once you get to the school. And anyways, nonetheless, that machine's gone. Mine showed up. I got all the bells and whistles on it. There's a light, and it doesn't sound like a great thing, but for me having a light on my machine, like that's great. It's one option I really, really wanted, is to have that light down there. But it's got an air release for the tool, and it's R8 spindle on it. It also has, coolant system built into it, which was another option for it. And I did buy a DRO, which is the same DRO that I do have on my lathe. That way, you're not going from one DRO to another DRO and trying to figure out where the buttons and functions are on each one. They're standard, and on the lathe, you're not using a lot. Absolute for most of the stuff I'm doing on the lathe, and it's just a matter of having that DRO. A lot of times for when you're going inside of stuff internally to cut. Nonetheless, I got that, and then I bought a power feed for the Z-axis and the X-axis. And there was and the DRO for the spindle as well. And there was a few other things in there. So when it actually gets here, there's going to be a bit of work getting that thing put together. But I actually really enjoy setting up machinery. Like I said a long time ago, I should have been looking at doing a millwright apprenticeship, because I really enjoy that kind of work. But I also really enjoy making stuff as well. So as you can see here in this video, this is where that gib's just not going to go in, and it was sanded. Like I actually ran it on the stone, and like I think it just might have been the fact that there's some oil in there now that it displaced everything a little bit. But it did go in there eventually, and once that's in there, then it's just a matter of seeing if this thing will actually make a taper. So It it does. Like I do have to say, I did cut a taper. Um, However, it wasn't a very good taper. Um, and of course, I wasn't. I used a piece of scrap material to cut it, but I don't think I'd use this thing at all if something had to be at spec. Um, and when you're cutting tapers, it pretty much always, and unless it's just a huge chamfer, it just pretty much has to always be at spec. So now it's just a matter, loosen up those screws a little bit to get this put all back together, and then take it over to the lathe and see if it'll actually work out. So at this point, I actually just started to do a little more honing on this. It just didn't sit right in there. Like I got it in there, it just didn't sit right. It was like really rough going in, and I didn't hone a lot of it. Just maybe a couple minutes just to get the burrs and that off. And it went in there, and then it was just a matter, tighten the gib down, and then there's a little nuts on top of those little screws that get tightened till they don't back off. And after that was done, I just tested it out, and the thing worked perfectly fine. Like not in the way of cutting anything, but actually just trying to move it back and forward on its post there, and it did move like really well. As you can see here, when I first had this thing, that crank would not even move one bit. So now it's just a matter of getting it fine-tuned, adjusted here, and getting it all locked in, and that's pretty much it. Besides testing this thing out. Uh, though I'm still not overly impressed with like how this thing showed up. Like I probably should have just sent it right back, but for what it was worth, I bought it to just experiment with it, and it actually gave me something to do when I was waiting for my milling machine to show up. So I think I'm going to have a lot to do once that milling machine actually shows up. I somehow have to get that thing up on that cradle I built for it and get it positioned and get everything put together on it, and see if I can't make a few chips on it. So throwing it in the lathe, and you can see how far that tooling is actually sticking out there just to clear this taper attachment. And when I was cutting this, there was just no rigidity at all in that. Um, it's pretty much useless. If it's to be considered an actual tool, then it's pretty much useless. If it's a novelty, then whatever. But what's the point of having it? Nonetheless, it does cut taper. After this was cut, it went in, but I was trying to show here how messed up this really was, and how it was not rigid at all. And you can see I have it actually turned upside down, so the handle's away from the tool post, which means all the numbering is on the bottom of the tool. So basically, if you want to use the numbering, and that handle, one revolution on handle is like 0.75 millimeters, and there's how far that tooling had to go out just to be able to get close enough to start that taper. And that's not saying that it was going to be a small taper in there. If it was going to be cut close, it would have to be coming out a lot more. Anyways, got the box fixed, got the thing in it. Going to put the lid on that, and probably never use it again, unless I'm absolutely bored and think I can build a better mousetrap out of it. But that's that.